Hey guys, tonight we begin with a thunderstorm. The kind that shakes old chimneys and rattles bones you didn't know remembered the rain. You're lying on a park bench in Bloomsbury, drenched, breathless, heart pounding like it just fell through centuries. Your fingers twitch against the soaked wood beneath you as your eyes flutter open to a world that feels too familiar. You're back. Again. And no, stabbing that prince wasn't exactly in the plan. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, tell me where and when you're listening from. I love knowing who's curled up with me. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Rain spatters across your cheeks like cold ink. You sit up, dazed, every inch of you feeling wrong and right at the same time. You're not hurt, not really, but your ribs ache, like they remember being broken. Maybe under a collapsing ceiling, or beneath a crowd screaming, "Witch." You breathe in deeply, expecting diesel fumes and wet earth, but you smell violets. Always violets. It clings to you like memory. You look down and see you're wearing an oversized brown coat. Not yours. It smells like pipe smoke and something older. A gust of wind throws your hair into your face and you push it away. Longer than you remember. Darker. Your hands are unfamiliar. Your heartbeat skips like it recognizes the shape of your palms, but not the skin. You stagger to your feet, shoes squelching, and begin walking. London has changed, sure. Glass towers now shoulder Victorian relics, but as your boots splash over cobblestones near Russell Square, it's like you're walking through lacework memories. That pub? You cried behind it once in a corset. That museum? You remember watching its walls go up, brick by solemn brick, when you were someone else. Maybe Evelyn. Maybe Aelith. You can't remember which one came first, just that you died. Twice. Now you're here again. You pass a bookstore window and your own reflection jolts you. The face staring back isn't unfamiliar, it's too familiar. High cheekbones, thoughtful brows, lips that always look a little guilty. "She's back," a voice murmurs behind you. You turn fast, but there's no one. Just the wind and that strange hush the world sometimes gets when it's holding its breath. Your legs move before your mind does, carrying you toward the British Museum. It's open late for some exhibition. You don't know why you're going, only that something ancient and tight in your chest is pulling. And when you walk through those great doors, the warmth of the place hits you like a memory. Or maybe it's just the heating system. Either way, the scent of marble and old paper fills your nose. You climb the grand staircase slowly, your hand trailing the banister. You remember holding it once in gloves, silken ones. A man beside you, arm to arm, fingers brushing just once, and the scandal of it. Upstairs, a room glows with golden lighting and velvet ropes. "Victorian Memento Mori," reads the plaque. You smile. A little. How poetic. And morbid. Very you. You step inside. The air in this room is different. Pressed flat. Reverent. There are mourning brooches, weeping miniatures painted on ivory, and then you see it. A portrait. It stops your breath mid-inhale. The girl in the frame is you, maybe 19. Gowned in lavender silk, a pearl at her throat, eyes just too sad for a stranger. Painted by someone who loved her. You can tell. "Evelyn," you whisper. "I thought so," a voice says softly. You turn. A man stands a few feet away, hands in his coat pockets, staring not at you, but at the painting. His eyes flick towards you only after he's finished inspecting her. Or maybe he already has and he's just pretending. He's your age, maybe older, rugged in the way old poets used to be. Messy dark hair, cheekbones sharp enough to draw blood, and eyes that carry storms. "I'm sorry," he says, nodding at the painting. She looks like you. It's uncanny." You nod slowly. "She was always better at standing still." He smiles at that. It's small, tilted, a familiar shape on an unfamiliar mouth. A security guard walks past. The man steps closer to you, just a little, as if shielding you from a world he doesn't quite trust. "My name's Thorne. James Thorne." Of course it is. It all rushes back like a whisper in reverse. Thorne, called Jamie in laughter, Lord Thorne when shouted across marbled halls, your lover in another life. Maybe in both. And now he's here. Again. You start, but the name on your tongue changes every time. Aelith. Evelyn. This new girl with second-hand boots. He's still looking at you. "You probably think I'm mad," he murmurs, "but I dreamed of her, that girl, and of burning wood and violets. I can't explain it." "No, you really can't." Outside, thunder growls. You feel it again. That brand behind your ribs that cracks open each time fate circles back. It always begins like this. The meeting, the forgetting, the almost remembering. But this time, maybe you're the one who remembers too much. You glance down. Something glints at his side. A chain peeking from his pocket. "Is that a watch?" you ask. He nods, pulls it out. Antique. Silver. Your breath catches. You know that watch. You gave it to him. Once. He flips open the pocket watch with a soft click, and the sound makes your skin pull tight across your bones. It's delicate, engraved with ivy and the initials E.R. Eveline Rosemont. Your name, once. You reach out instinctively, fingers brushing the cool metal. It hums under your touch. Or maybe that's just your pulse pounding too loudly. "Where did you get this?" you ask, voice lower than before. "A vendor near the Thames. Old man with half a beard and no sense of pricing." James Thorne shrugs. "He said it was cursed. Or maybe charmed. Something dramatic." You want to laugh, but your throat is dry. That vendor always finds him. In every life. You hold the watch for a second too long, then pass it back. He watches your fingers like they're a cipher he's almost translated. "Do I know you?" he asks, squinting slightly. "Yes. No. Maybe. You never get this part quite right." "You look familiar," you murmur, giving him the safe version. He nods slowly, as though disappointed by that answer, like he hoped you'd say something wilder, like, "I think I watched you die once under a moon that bled." But instead, you both stand here pretending time hasn't frayed you both at the edges. The silence stretches, lush and awkward. He slips the watch away. Then he tilts his head. "Have you been to the conservatory room yet? It's got a ridiculous amount of dead plants and one tragically taxidermied fox." The line is odd, charming, and stupid, and so him. You manage a smile. Lead the way. As you follow him through the corridor, your boots echo alongside his. His gait is confident, casual. He doesn't know he's walking through a second chance. Or maybe a third. The conservatory exhibit is quiet, dim, a blend of artificial plants, glass cases, and the lingering smell of aged taxidermy. There is indeed a fox, frozen mid-snarl, eyes glassy with disbelief. You stifle a giggle. James leans beside you against a railing, both of you looking out over the atrium. You really do look like her, he says again, softer this time. But there's something in the way you move, like you're used to being watched. You glance at him sideways. That's flattering. It's not meant to be. He smiles, and it hurts how much it looks like the one he wore when he handed you roses before the fall ball of 1864. He wasn't supposed to be there. Neither were you. He leans closer, voice barely a whisper. I keep having these dreams. Your spine goes cold. They're strange. I'm not me exactly. I'm standing in a dark forest, and someone's calling my name. He hesitates. It's not James. It's something else. He doesn't remember the name. Thorn. He adds, I think it's a memory from something I haven't lived yet. You nod. Your palms are clammy, your heart a moth slamming into ribs. You've never heard him say it first. In every other life, you were the one who remembered. You sit on a nearby bench because standing suddenly feels dangerous. He joins you. The silence wraps around you both like a heavy curtain. You watch the light flicker on the museum ceiling, shadows bending like old tree branches. Your mind slips again. This happens often. The veil between now and then is paper thin. In a blink, you're wearing a lilac ground, lace gloves, your hand resting on his shoulder as you dance in a ballroom lit with gas lamps and jealousy. You were betrothed to someone else. You always were. The memory fades. James is staring at you. You just went somewhere. Where? You meet his gaze. A party I never should have attended. He gives a soft laugh, but his smile falters. I know this is crazy, but sometimes I think I'm looking for someone I've already lost. Your chest tightens. Here's the thing about this timeline. You're not supposed to interfere. That's the rule. Let him live. Let him love someone normal, someone who remembers being burned alive. But your hands ache for the want to touch him, and your heart has never been particularly obedient. You believe in reincarnation? You ask, nonchalantly. Too nonchalantly. He shrugs. I don't disbelieve. I just haven't decided yet. You're wearing the watch, you point out. He glances down at his coat pocket and chuckles. Fair. A woman walks by, heels clacking, perfume trailing like a memory. James turns to follow her movement, and for just a second, his profile catches in the light. You remember tracing that jawline with trembling fingers. You remember kissing him under a weeping willow in a courtyard soaked with fog. You were betrothed to someone else. You always were. He turns back to you. Will I see you again? You should say no. You should vanish tonight like a whisper that never mattered. But you nod. Same time tomorrow? He grins. Deal. As he stands, you watch the way he brushes imaginary dust from his coat sleeve. You remember that gesture. It was always something he did before saying something foolish and romantic like, "Let me ruin myself for you." And then he's gone, walking into the warm yellow light of the museum corridor. You sit there a moment longer, fingers tracing the seam of the bench. Behind you, a plaque reads, "In the late Victorian period, it was believed that if two lovers shared a heartbeat at midnight, their souls would find one another in the next life, no matter the pain of their death." You look down at your hands. They're trembling again. You whisper to no one, "We've done this before." And somewhere deep in the bones of the earth, the clock ticks a little louder. The painting calls to you again the next day, like a tide dragging you back in. You take the long way to the museum, fingers stuffed in your coat pockets, breath fogging in front of your face. London's air tastes of ghosts and wet brick. You pass a flower cart selling violets, of course, and the scent punches you in the memory. You don't buy them. You never do. Not since the river. James is waiting by the staircase, leaning against the banister like a man who hasn't just been haunting your lifetimes. He looks up and smiles like this is a first date and not déjà vu in a handsome coat. "Hey," he says. You nod. "You came back." "I said I would." He pauses. "And I wanted to see her again." Your stomach flutters, a delicate little panic. "The painting?" He grins. "Sure, that too." You walk side by side into the gallery, the hush swallowing you both. There she is. You. Framed in thick gold, her eyes half sad, half defiant. You remember the day it was painted. You remember the artist. August Vale, with tobacco-stained fingers and a gaze that lingered too long on your collarbone. You remember James, Lord Thorne, storming in halfway through and declaring the portrait dangerously flattering. James studies the painting now with a thoughtful tilt of his head. "She looks like she's waiting for someone." "She was," you say, and quickly cover it with a cough. He raises an eyebrow. "You know a lot about her." "I've read a lot." It's not entirely a lie. You did write most of it. In journals, letters, margins of books that never made it past the fire. You step closer to the frame, your fingertips hovering just above the cracked varnish. A strange heat prickles in your chest. Memory spills in, thick and warm. Tea roses on your vanity, corset strings drawn too tight, a pearl pin pricking your scalp. You can hear the clock ticking on the mantel. You close your eyes. You're back in 1864. It's early spring, and your maid is fussing over your hair. You're due at the opera with your fiancé, a man who collects wives like books and reads none of them. But all you can think about is the letter you found this morning beneath your window, the writing bold and slanted. Tonight, 11 p.m., Garden Gate, -T. Your stomach fluttered for hours. Back in the present, your breath catches. James is watching you. He says, "You zoned out again." Your voice low. You nod slowly. "Do you believe people can be haunted by their own past?" He thinks about it. Haunted, maybe. Pulled toward unfinished stories? Definitely. There's something in his voice, a wistfulness that makes your bones ache. The kind of ache you know he carries without knowing why. The room feels colder suddenly. You wrap your arms around yourself, but it doesn't help. He notices. "Want to grab coffee?" You blink. "What?" He smiles, sheepish. "I know it's weird, but I feel like I've known you forever, and I'm trying very hard not to say that like a creep." You laugh before you can stop yourself. That's oddly comforting. He holds out a hand. You hesitate. Touch has always been the bridge. Once you cross it, time starts to unravel faster. Last time you waited too long, the time before too soon. Maybe there's never a right time to fall in love with someone you've buried twice. You place your hand in his. His skin is warm. His fingers wrap around yours like muscle memory. And the moment you touch, something inside your mind cracks. Not loud, but deep. Like a picture frame falling behind a wall. You flinch slightly. He doesn't notice. "Come on," he says. "I know a cafe where the chairs don't match and the milk is always a little too warm." You follow him into the city light, trying not to think about the sharp sting behind your eyes. As you walk, he talks about his job in restoration, about how he spends weekends in antique bookstores looking for stories, about how he's always been obsessed with the past. Of course he is. That part never changes. You sip lukewarm coffee from mismatched cups. A jazz trio plays softly in the background. James tells you a joke about a mummified cat being found in a wall in Kent, and you laugh too loud. He grins like that's a victory. Then something shifts. He leans in. "I used to have this recurring dream. There's a woman in it. She's always wearing lavender, and I can never reach her. You're very still. And there's a smell. Violets and candle smoke. And once I said something in the dream that didn't make sense, but I woke up crying." "What did you say?" He hesitates, then whispers, "Forgive me, I couldn't get to you in time." Your chest tightens so sharply you can't breathe for a second. He leans back, clearly uncomfortable with his own intensity. "I'm sorry, I'm not usually like this." You smile weakly. "Neither am I." You walk home in silence after that. He offers to see you to your door. You say yes. Outside your flat, under the street lamp's tired glow, he hesitates. "I should... probably good night," you say at the same time. He chuckles, low and soft. Then, his voice barely a whisper, "I feel like I was supposed to find you." You want to kiss him. You want to run. Instead, you say, "Maybe we're just pieces of something old." He nods. And then, without warning, he leans in and presses his lips to your forehead. The touch is feather-light, reverent. You freeze. Because the last time he kissed you like that, your neck bore bruises from shackles, and your hair smelled of ash. He pulls back. Smiles. "See you tomorrow." You nod. But the moment the door closes behind you, your knees buckle. You sit on the cold floor for a long time, breathing too fast, one hand pressed over your heart, because you know what comes next. You always do. Your dreams are more vivid now. You're back in the greenhouse, the one that stood behind the Rosemont estate before it burned in 1871. The air's thick with humidity and jasmine. Moonlight cuts silver through the panes overhead, and somewhere in the corner, a fountain trickles like a heartbeat trying to slow itself down. He's there. Not James, but Thorne. Your Thorne. Wearing the wine-colored waistcoat you once unlaced in secret, his hair longer, eyes darker, voice softer. He says your name like he's remembering how it tastes. Evelyn. You reach for him, but the vines twist around your arms, pulling you back. They whisper, in languages older than your bones. And then you're awake, slick with sweat, trembling, sheets tangled like battlefield cloth. The clock says 3:17 a.m., and the city is so quiet, it hums. You roll over, clutching your pillow. Your mind won't stop. That wasn't a memory. That was now. Somewhere in the loop of lifetimes, you've started overlapping. It's happening earlier than usual. You manage a few more hours of restless sleep. When morning comes, the sun is unreasonably bright, and London seems smug about it. You wear your softest sweater and drink your coffee standing up. You text James. You. Museum later? James. Thought you'd never ask. I've already prepared my most pretentious commentary on 18th century urns. You smile, despite yourself. But part of you itches, like something is unraveling faster than it should. At the museum, James is waiting at the entrance, a warm wool scarf around his neck and that damn watch clipped to his vest. He greets you with that easy smile again, but there's something under it today, a tightness in his shoulders, a shadow beneath his jokes. You both gravitate to the West Wing without speaking. Why is it always urns with you? You ask, half laughing. He grins. They're vessels, containment. What's not to love? A little morbid. Exactly. Beautiful things holding ashes. Very poetic. You stop in front of a Grecian-style urn, hand-painted with scenes of mourning. Women in veils, men in battle, a single raven perched atop a crumbling column. James says nothing, but his hand finds yours. Naturally, without hesitation. Your skin tingles with the contact. Hey, he says quietly. Something weird happened last night. You glance at him. Weirder than a mummified cat? He smiles faintly. I had that dream again. The lavender woman. You swallow. But this time, she said something, clearly, right before she disappeared. What did she say? He stares at the urn, voice barely audible. She said, "Don't forget the river." Your heart stops. Because that was the last thing you ever whispered in his ear before you were thrown from the bridge in 1847. You turn your face away so he won't see your expression. Did I mean anything to you? He asks. You shake your head, too quickly. He doesn't press. Instead, he draws circles with his thumb on the back of your hand. Absent, almost thoughtless, but your whole body is tuned to it. You walk through the exhibit slowly. The museum's silence is comforting in its predictability. Footsteps echo like ghost steps. The paintings breathe in the corners of your vision. Time thins. You pass a portrait of Lady Imogen Wellbridge, another face you know, another soul who traveled once with you and then faded. Her portrait shows her with a half smile, one hand resting on a prayer book. In reality, she had carried daggers in her garters and had a laugh like bells. James lingers behind you. Is it strange that I feel safer with you than with anyone I've actually known longer? You exhale softly. No, it's not strange. Because you remember being locked in a dungeon with him, your fingers bloodied from clawing at stone, and he still made you feel safer than the guards who pretended to feed you. You walk together in silence, moving toward the eastern wing, the place where they keep oddities, letters that never reached their destinations, clocks that tick backwards, and a harpsichord that only plays in minor key, even when it shouldn't. That room is always cold. James blows warm air into his hands and glances sideways. Okay, this might sound like a reach, but do you believe in soul bonds? You blink. Like fate? More like connections that refuse to break, even when they should. You nod slowly. Yes, I do. He looks relieved. I Googled it last night, found some weird folklore site. It said something about threads of memory and spiritual burn marks, stuff that carries over. You can't help it. You whisper. The scars you can't see. James jerks his head toward you. Yes, exactly. You don't explain how you know that your left shoulder still aches every spring because that's where the arrow hit in 1221 when you died trying to protect him during the siege of Aliberry. You don't tell him that sometimes you wake up screaming in languages long buried. Instead, you both stop in front of the display case holding the Evelyn letters, a collection of burned scraps found under the Rosemont estate ruins. He reads the placard. These were real? You nod, eyes scanning the parchment. My dearest T, should the ivy bloom before your return, I shall take it as a sign to wait. If not, I shall come to you in another life, better, braver, with less to lose. He reads aloud, Ivy, that's in your name. Your voice is a whisper. It always is. You feel it then, faint but pulsing, like a tremor in your chest, a resonance. He feels it too. He looks at you with something raw in his eyes. Not recognition, not yet, but the ghost of it. He steps closer. I don't want to sound crazy, but I think we were something before. You take a shaky breath. We were. I just don't know what we're meant to be now. He looks down. Do we get to choose this time? You glance at the watch still tucked into his vest. That depends. On what? If the watch ticks at midnight. He raises an eyebrow. It's broken. You meet his gaze. It wasn't. Last time. The room is very quiet. Somewhere, a distant clock chimes the hour. You don't say anything else. You just walk beside him until the light in the skylight begins to fade, and the shadows start to remember your names. The watch ticks at midnight. It shouldn't. It hasn't in over a century. But when James walks you home that night, your coat brushing against his with every step, your breath mingling in the icy air, and you stand outside your door saying nothing in particular, because you're both afraid to say everything. He pulls the watch from his pocket, frowning, and it ticks. Once, then twice. Your whole body goes still. He looks down, puzzled. Thought this thing was broken. It had been, ever since 1867, when it stopped the moment your carriage plunged off the cliff. You hide your trembling hands in your pockets. Maybe it's just catching up. He looks at you like he's trying to remember something just out of reach. Do you ever feel like your life is full of unfinished sentences? You swallow. Only the important ones. He grins, soft, tired. Want to start one we might finish this time? You want to say yes. But in the back of your mind, something itches. That watch has always been a trigger. In every life, once it ticks, the unraveling begins. The veil thins. The loops begin to collapse. And you never know which of you will remember first or which of you will forget. Still, you say, all right, one sentence. He laughs. You start. You think for a moment, then say, in another life, I waited too long. He nods slowly, watching you. Then in this one, I won't make you wait at all. He kisses your cheek before you can stop him. Soft, certain. You stand there long after he's gone, your face pressed to the door, pulse racing in your throat. Inside, you light every candle in the flat and throw the curtains open wide. Because if the past is returning, you want it to see you clearly. You dream again that night. This time, you're on a ship, a grand vessel carved with mermaids and sorrow. You're standing at the bow, arms wrapped in furs, the sea black as ink around you. Thorn is below deck, wounded. You're carrying a knife hidden in your sleeve. Someone wants you dead before you reach the port. You wake gasping, the sheets soaked. Your phone lights up, a message from James. James, can't sleep. Kept hearing waves in my dreams. Ever get that? You reply before you can stop yourself. You. Yes, there was a storm. You were hurt. A beat. James. How did you know that? You don't answer. You just stare at the ceiling and wonder how much time you have left before this beautiful echo collapses again. The next day, you meet at the riverside. He suggested it, said it felt right. You nearly said no, but you said yes because you always say yes to him, even when you shouldn't. It's cold. The water's high from rain, thick and gray like spilled mercury. You both lean on the railing, watching the current. He shivers and says, I used to have this irrational fear of drowning. You nod. It's not irrational. He looks at you sharply. Did something happen to me before? Your hands tighten around the iron railing. You fell in one winter, trying to save someone. Did I save them? You tried. He's quiet for a long moment. You know more than you should. You shrug. Maybe I'm just a good guesser. Or maybe you're remembering. You meet his gaze. Would it scare you if I was? He studies you. No, but it would scare me if I was too. You both look away at the same moment. There's a breeze that smells faintly of lilac, though it's not the season. The sky turns from gray to blue to something bruised and fading. He says, Can I ask you something? You nod. Do we make it in the other lives? Your throat tightens. Sometimes. He lets out a shaky breath. That's something, at least. You think of the time he bled out beside you in a French alleyway in 1911. The way he whispered, You found me again. That's enough. You think of the time you died during childbirth in 1740 and he raised your daughter alone. You think of the time you never met at all. Each life is a different kind of wound, but some scars you carry gladly. As you turn to walk back, he slips his arm around yours, and you remember something from the old village in 1320, a superstition about soul binds, that if two lovers walk 3 nights in a row beside a river, and the moon does not reflect them, they are cursed to forget each other in the next life. You look down. No reflection. Just ripples. You say nothing. That night, back in your flat, you rummage through your closet until you find the box. You never meant to open it again. Inside, a bundle of faded letters, tied with gold ribbon, a dried violet pressed in a book spine, a tarnished signet ring, his, from the year 1503. You hold the ring in your palm until it warms, until your fingers tremble. Then, on impulse, you walk to your tiny desk and begin to write. Dear James, you won't understand this yet, not fully, but I need you to remember 2 things. First, you never betrayed me, no matter what they say. Second, the ivy never bloomed because I pulled it up by the root myself. I chose you, every time, even when I shouldn't have. If the watch is ticking, then time is almost out. Meet me where the stone bridge curves like a question mark. Midnight. Wear the ring. If you don't come, I'll find you in the next life. But God, I hope I don't have to. You hesitate, then you sign it. Evelyn. When you seal the envelope, your heart beats so loud it feels like thunder under your skin. You fall asleep with the ring beside you on the pillow, and in your dreams, he finds you again, on the edge of a battlefield, your hands covered in blood, and his voice saying, over and over, "We never finished our sentence." The stone bridge curves like a question mark in the dark. You arrive just before midnight, breath clouding the air, the letter folded in your coat pocket, and the ring clenched so tightly in your hand it leaves a mark. This place hasn't changed in any of your lives. The moss still creeps along the arches, the river still whispers secrets below, the kind only lovers and ghosts understand. And the moon, tonight a ghost pearl behind veils of cloud, does not reflect. That part stings. You lean against the railing and try not to read into it. Maybe the current is too fast. Maybe the veil between now and then is just too thin tonight. Maybe you're already forgetting something you shouldn't. Footsteps. Soft, hesitant. You don't turn around right away. Just say, "I wasn't sure you'd come." James stops beside you, hands in his coat pockets. "Neither was I." You glance at him. He's wearing the ring. It gleams faintly in the moonlight, dull gold, carved with the crest you once embroidered on your battlefield banners, a rearing stag flanked by roses. "I read your letter," he says. "Good. I didn't send it." He chuckles. "I know. It was on my desk when I got home." "That stops you cold." What?" "It was sealed with wax. My name in your handwriting, no return address, just there." You feel the cold settle deeper in your bones. Sometimes your lives leak. Little things slip through the cracks of time, letters appear, dreams echo. Once, in 1876, you received a photograph of him holding your hand before cameras had even been invented. James is watching you carefully. "You want to tell me what's going on now?" You sigh. "I think we're waking up. Both of us. That's new." He's quiet for a moment, then says, "The ring. I dreamed of it before I found it." You nod. "That makes sense. That's how it always starts." James leans forward, resting his elbows on the stone edge. "And what comes next?" You stare at the river. "We try to remember faster than the story repeats." He laughs quietly. "That's poetic and a little ominous." You smile, but it doesn't reach your eyes. "It's the truth." He takes a breath, then turns to face you. "Evelyn, if I'm really remembering, why does it feel like there's always a cost?" "Because there always is." You remember the superstition from the Highlands. For every soul you find again, a secret must be lost. You've never told anyone that one. Maybe you never will. Instead you say, "Because we were never meant to get away with this. We've cheated fate too many times." James looks at the ring. "I want to know everything. What we were, what we did, how many lives?" 17, you say before you can stop yourself. "Maybe 18 if you count the one where we were birds." He blinks. "We were birds?" "Just once. Long story. Bad ending. Hawks and arrows. Let's skip it." He laughs again, but his hand finds yours, fingers curling with instinct. "Why us? Why do we keep coming back?" You don't have a real answer, but the wind picks up, and somewhere in it, you swear you hear the word "again" whispered like prayer. You walk the length of the bridge together in silence, your steps falling into rhythm, your bodies leaning into each other like magnet and metal. And for a heartbeat, you swear the river stills, and your reflection looks back. It's not quite you. It's you and not. A version from another time, draped in velvet, hair braided with pearls, a dagger hidden at your thigh, and James beside you in royal blue, crowned with a circlet of morning iron. And then, it's gone. The moment passes and the moon hides again. When you reach the far end of the bridge, James pauses. I feel like I should say something significant, but all I can think is, I don't want to forget you again. Your throat tightens. Then don't. It's not that simple. I know. You're about to step away, to pull back before the moment becomes too heavy, but he stops you with a question. Do you believe we're being punished? You blink. For what? For loving each other so much the universe keeps trying to separate us? You turn to him. If this is punishment, it's the only one I'd volunteer for. His hand moves to your cheek, thumb tracing the shape of your jaw like he's done it 1,000 times before. And he has. On battlefields and ballrooms and barns during rainstorms. I remembered your name before I even knew you, he whispers. Your voice shakes, and I've spent every life whispering yours in my sleep. The kiss comes slowly, softly, like an exhale after holding your breath too long. Not desperate, not frantic, just inevitable. And when your lips part, the watch in his coat ticks again. Once, twice, a third time. The rhythm is steady now. James looks down. It's working. You nod. That means the loop is waking up. And us with it. The air changes. The sky bruises deeper. Your bones ache in that familiar way. You know what's coming. Something's going to happen, you say quietly. He nods. I can feel it. You don't say it out loud, but this is the part where things usually fall apart. Where someone dies, or forgets, or time resets without warning. But he's still here. You take his hand. We need to find the beginning, you whisper. James tilts his head. Of what? Of us. Where it first went wrong. We have to break the loop. He nods slowly. Then let's go back. Not just in memory. Then where? You close your eyes. The image forms instantly. An ancient abbey, overgrown with ivy, the smell of lavender, the faint echo of bells, a child's voice singing in Latin. The year is 1386. The first time you met him, the first time you died. We need to go to Avemore, you say. James frowns. That's in Cornwall, right? You nod. And no, I don't know how I know that either. He takes a breath. Then let's leave tomorrow. I'll book the tickets. Just like that. No hesitation. No questions. Just trust. Because somewhere between 17 lifetimes and the river that forgets your names, you found the one constant. Each other. And maybe, just maybe, this is the life where you finally stop the clock. The train ride to Cornwall is rain-slicked and humming. James falls asleep leaning against your shoulder somewhere outside Exeter, and you watch the blurred countryside with a stomach full of ghosts. The rhythm of the train is oddly familiar, like it's following a path you've traveled before, even though you've never been here in this life. Outside, the moors roll by like waves petrified in mid-crest, the sky the color of pewter, and the earth slick with old secrets. You trace his fingers as he sleeps. In a past life, the same hand held yours at the gallows. In another, it pulled you from a sinking carriage into a river you never remembered getting out of. And once, you cut it open with a ritual dagger to bind your souls in blood. The scar is gone now, but you know exactly where it used to be. You press your thumb to the spot. James stirs and murmurs something that might be your name, or might be a memory you haven't reached yet. When you arrive in Aviemore, it's exactly as you left it. Except it's the first time you've ever been. The station is a crooked thing. One platform and a small stone building overrun with moss, and a wildly inefficient tea stand manned by a man who greets you both as if you're regulars. You take your tea with honey. James adds a splash of milk and 2 sugars, just like he always did in 1862. The air here tastes different. Older, wiser. Every street feels like a whisper. The cobbles are worn in ways that feel like footsteps from lives before yours. And the Abbey ruins loom above it all like a half-forgotten crown. You don't go there yet. Instead, you check in at a bed and breakfast run by a woman named Edith, who has one blind eye and calls you Evelyn before you've even introduced yourself. James stiffens. You laugh it off. Lucky guess? But the woman just smiles, hands you a brass key with a stag engraved on the fob, and says, I'll bring up the tea after you've had a moment to remember who you are. Upstairs, in the little room with the slanted beams and windows that face the sea, James turns to you. Did that feel like a trap to you? You smile faintly. Only if we spring it. He walks to the window, peers out at the ruins in the distance. That Abbey, it's calling to me, not in a dream way, like a tug in my ribs. You nod. Same. In the 1300s, you were a novice scribe, orphaned young, taken in by the Sisters of St. Galliana, and taught to copy sacred texts in gold ink. You are not supposed to meet anyone, let alone a young nobleman training with the knights across the moors. But you did. And you died for it. You don't remember all of it yet, but enough to know it started here. James turns to you. We go tomorrow? You nod. That night, you dream again. But it's not like before. This time, you're awake inside it, not watching, but living. The Abbey bell tolls matins in the pale light of pre-dawn. You kneel by the window, veil slipping from your shoulders, hands ink-stained and trembling. The manuscript before you is nearly finished, a prayer of protection in Latin meant for a knight riding to war. You're supposed to finish it by morning, but the letters blur, because tonight you kissed him in the cloister garden behind the lavender hedges, and the world tilted too far to the left for you to recover. His name was not James then. It was Sir Thorn of Aviemore, and you were Sister Evelyn of St. Galliana's order. He gave you the ring, the same one that ticks inside your present pocket even now. You wake with the name on your lips. Thorn. James is already awake, sitting in the armchair, holding the ring between 2 fingers like it might bite him. You said Thorn in your sleep, he murmurs. You sit up. That was your name, in the first loop. He turns the ring over in his palm. It was engraved. I never noticed before. He passes it to you. You squint. Beneath the stag and roses is a phrase etched in nearly invisible script. Semper ate ridel. I always return to you, you whisper. James swallows hard. Latin's oddly romantic when it's not being shouted by angry professors. You stare at the ring. We need to go now, not tomorrow. Today. By noon, you're climbing the worn path to the Abbey ruins. The wind howls, crows circle overhead, and the sky splits briefly with a cold beam of sunlight. The Abbey stands like the skeleton of a memory. Arches empty, walls leaning, ivy choking the broken stone, but you know where everything used to be. The cloisters, the scriptorium, the refectory, where you spilled ink and were scolded by Sister Maris for daydreaming. James follows you silently, only breaking the hush to say, "That's where you kissed me, isn't it?" You nod, pointing to a shattered column tangled in vines. And that's when it happens. The air thickens. The scent of lavender rushes over you like a wave. And in a blink, no sound, no warning, the world shifts. Suddenly, the Abbey is whole. You're still standing there, but not. You're wearing a novice's robe, and Thorn, stands before you in chainmail, hands bare, ringless, eyes wide. Neither of you speak, because this is a memory, a living one. You can't move, can't act, only watch. You see yourself, your then self, step forward, place your palm on his chest, watch as he leans down and whispers something in your ear, and you, your then self, says the words you'd forgotten until this moment. If they find us, I will lie for you, I will die for you, but I will not forget you. And Thorn had said, then let's make sure it was worth it. They came for him an hour later, and for you a day after. You blink, and the vision is gone. James is staring at you. I saw it. I felt it. You exhale. That was the beginning. He nods. Which means we're almost at the end. The air goes cold. From the far side of the ruins, something moves. A flicker of shadow, too fast to be the wind, too silent to be animal. You don't speak of it. Not yet. But you both feel it. Something else is remembering too.
You don't speak much on the walk back to the inn. The air is damp with something heavier than mist. An ache, a tremor, a weight neither of you can name. The vision still clings to you, like incense on a funeral cloak. You feel it in your bones, the soft press of your vow, the warmth of his armor, the moment before the end began. James slips his hand into yours without looking, his grip steady despite the 1,000-year tremble in his fingers. Back in your room, Edith meets you on the stairs. "You've stirred the place up," she says with a knowing squint. "Stones remember what hearts forget. Just be careful. Not every echo wants to stay buried." She hands you a small bundle wrapped in lavender silk. "For the door," she murmurs, then nods toward the Abbey. "You'll know when." Inside the bundle, a brass key, old as ruin. The teeth are carved with the same stag and roses motif as the ring. James closes the door behind you, leans against it, and exhales like he's been holding something in since the Abbey. "I think it's happening faster this time. We're not just remembering, we're living through it again." You nod. Like it's collapsing inward, all the loops, the timelines, stacking on top of each other. He paces. But why now? Why this life? There's no easy answer. Maybe this is the one where you remember soon enough to change things. Or maybe it's the one where remembering breaks something important. A sacred law, a cosmic balance, a deal you don't remember making. You pull out the ring. It's warm. Ticking faster now. James looks at it. What if this isn't just a token? What if it's the lock and the key? You glance at the bundle from Edith. The ring, the brass key, the phrase semper ad te redeo. Always I return to you. It doesn't feel like a metaphor anymore. You fall asleep with the bundle on your nightstand, James curled behind you, his arm around your waist, like a promise made in older blood. The dream comes immediately, but it isn't a memory. It's new. You're back in the Abbey, but it's different, darker, twisted. The stones bleed ink, the air hums like it's being tuned. You see the door, a real one this time, heavy and iron-bound, carved with ancient runes. At its center, the symbol, stag and roses. You reach for it and wake with a start. The room is dim, lit only by the low dawn light. James is sitting up, breathing fast. I saw it! The door! And something behind it! You sit up too. We have to go, now. The Abbey is deserted again when you return. No whispers, no visions, just the ruins. You find the door in the cloisters, exactly where it was in the dream. Only now you can see it, half buried behind a wall of ivy, stone around it scorched and old, like it hasn't been opened in centuries. You scrape back vines, reveal the crest. The keyhole is shaped like the ring. Your hands tremble as you fit the brass key from Edith into the lock. It turns once, then clicks, but the door doesn't budge. James steps forward. Try the ring. You press the signet into the center of the crest. The door shudders. A low, grinding sound groans through the stones. The air thickens. The Abbey responds. The door swings inward. Inside, a narrow staircase spiraling down, lit by no torch, no sun, but yet bright with the same eerie, timeless glow you felt in every lifetime right before the end. James hesitates. If we go down there, we might not come back, you finish. He looks at you. I'd rather die with you than live forgetting. Cheesy, but I'll allow it. You descend together. The stairs feel impossibly long. Time folds, space warps. You smell lavender and smoke, hear the soft toll of bells, see flashes of every life, flickers of flame, snow, war, silk, shattered glass, tears. At the bottom, a chamber. Circular. Quiet. In its center, a pedestal. Upon it, a scroll, bound with black ribbon, sealed with wax. The same crest. You step forward. A wall of air stops you. James reaches out, and the moment his hand touches yours again, the barrier fades. Together, you break the seal. Inside, one sentence, written in that same gold ink you once used in the scriptorium. This is the vow you broke. Your breath leaves you. Suddenly, you remember the full end of that first life, how they dragged you before the sisters, how you lied to protect him, how they found out anyway, how they made you choose, recant and forget, or die with his name on your lips. You chose him, and the vow you broke wasn't to the Abbey, or the Order, or even the law. It was to time itself, to never love a mortal beyond one lifetime. James whispers, "We broke the rules." You nod. We were never supposed to carry this much memory, this much love. In the far wall of the chamber, a second door begins to glow. You both stare at it. What do we do? You stare down at the scroll and then at the ring, ticking faster, warmer, like it's counting something down. And then, just as suddenly as it all appeared, the chamber starts to collapse. Not with stone and noise, but with forgetting.
Your name, his face, the vow. Everything begins to blur. You scream his name and grab his hand. He holds tighter. The ring pulses. And then you're on the floor of the Abbey ruins. Afternoon light, wind, silence. James lies beside you, breathing hard. You sit up, heart hammering. What happened? You ask. He blinks. I don't know. But I remember everything. You nod slowly. So do you. And you're still here. Still you. Still together. Which means for the first time in 17 lives, you might have just survived the test. The first strange thing is that the ring has stopped ticking. You only notice it hours later, once you and James are back at the inn, your clothes dusty from the Abbey floor and your minds vibrating like struck bells. You fish it from your coat pocket, half expecting it to hum like a bee in your hand. But it's quiet. Dead quiet. James watches from the edge of the bed, face unreadable. That can't be good, he says. Or maybe it's done what it needed to do, you offer, but your voice wavers. You place it on the nightstand beside the bundle from Edith, half expecting it to vanish, burst into flames, or whisper the truth of your next 1,000 years. Instead, it just sits there, a little piece of forever pretending to be jewelry. James stands, begins pacing. That chamber, that vow we broke, it was real, wasn't it? Not a dream, not a metaphor. You nod slowly. We loved through lives we weren't supposed to. We remembered when we should have forgotten, and we found the door no one was meant to open. He runs both hands through his hair. So what now? Are we cursed? Hunted? Erased again? You shake your head. Not yet. And that's the second strange thing. Nothing bad has happened. No ominous shadows at the door, no thunderclaps or bleeding walls. Just silence. The universe apparently is taking a breath. You fall asleep curled beside him, lulled by the lullaby of rain against the window. For the first time since your memories returned, your dreams are empty, peaceful. No visions, no flashbacks, no door. The next morning, Edith slides an envelope under your door. It has no name, just a symbol pressed in wax. A stylized stag made of winding thorns. James opens it. Inside, a single note. Meet me where the roses died. No signature. No explanation. But your spine tightens all the same. Because you know exactly where that is. The ruined cloister garden. Where Thorn kissed you, where you swore your love, and where they dragged you away in the rain of another lifetime. You and James dress in silence. Edith meets you at the bottom of the stairs, pours tea without asking. Time's thin around you now, like parchment used too many times. Be careful. Some memories bite harder than others. You take the tea, add honey. Same as ever. Outside, the day is cold and gray, wind pulling at your coat as you make your way back to the Abbey for what feels like the 100th time. This time, though, you don't stop at the main path. You wind around the back, through a gate so choked with bramble it tears James's sleeve and slices your hand. Blood hits the stones and the air changes. Just slightly. A hush. A pull. A breath held by something ancient. Then you step through the veil. The cloister garden is no longer ruined. It blooms around you in ghost colors. Lavender and pale roses and heather, scents wafting in and out of reach. The sky above is dusk, though you know it's midday. In the center stands a woman. Long silver hair braided down her back, robes of deep green and eyes like polished amber. She looks at you with something far too knowing. You brought him again. You blink. Again? The woman sighs. You always bring him. No matter how many lives we thread you through, no matter how deep we bury the door. James steps forward. Who are you? She tilts her head. A seamstress of a sort. You shiver. Are you the one who bound us? She smiles, sharp and sweet. No, I'm the one who warned you. She gestures to the stone bench nearby, half covered in ghost roses. You both sit. She remains standing. There are rules, Eveline. You knew them. You broke them. And now you've remembered too much. More than even the bound are meant to. James frowns. We were in love. What crime is that? The woman looks at him, gaze suddenly ancient. Love is not the crime. Attachment is. You scoff. What's the difference? Love is like wind. Attachment is like chains. James squeezes your hand under the bench. So what now? Are you here to punish us? She shakes her head slowly. You're already suffering, again and again. That was the design of your loop. But something changed this time. You feel the ring, even unheld, like a phantom weight against your skin. The woman's eyes narrow. You pass through the chamber. You nod. And the ring stopped. Another nod. A long silence. Then, that shouldn't have been possible. You and James exchange a look. Then it's over? You ask, not daring to believe it. The seamstress, if that's even what she is, steps forward, reaches out, and touches your forehead. You flinch. Memories surge forward, faster than ever. Every name you've worn, every kiss, every fall, every resurrection, and one more thing. A decision. Made by your very first self, long before the vow was broken, long before James, long before Thorne. You volunteered. You asked to feel this love in every life. You asked to remember him because you believed that love, even when forbidden, even when cursed, was worth the cost. Tears stream down your face. The woman steps back. Now you understand. James is pale. We did this to ourselves? She nods. But you also did something no soul has ever done before. You raise your eyes to hers. We survived. A soft smile. Yes. And because of that, I can offer you a choice. The wind stills. The ghost roses shimmer. The woman holds out 2 keys. One silver, one black. One returns you to forgetting. The loop begins again, but you will live long, peaceful lives unaware of your shared past. Together, but blank. She holds up the second key. This one ends it. You will remember all of it, but you will live only once more. One final life. No reincarnations, no resets, no second chances. You look at James. He looks at you. Then he nods, quietly. Let's do this, he says. Let's live. You take the black key, and the garden fades. You wake up in a hospital bed. Beeping machines, white walls, a sterile smell that pinches your nose and pulls you sharply into the now. Modern day now. Heart monitor ticking, the faint hum of fluorescent lights. James is slouched in a chair beside you, hair longer, stubble catching the room's glow. He's asleep, chin tucked against his shoulder, one hand still wrapped tightly around yours. Your first instinct is panic. Have you lost it all again? But no, it's there. Everything. The ring, the vow, the abbey, the woman with the keys, every lifetime. And James, you take a slow breath. This isn't a reset. This is the final life. You remember the accident now, just a flash of tires, a scream, your hand clutching his in a crossing, and then everything went black. Apparently, the universe wanted to make sure the final round started with a bang. The door creaks open. A nurse steps in, young and gentle-eyed. She glances at the monitor, then at you. Well, well, Sleeping Beauty's back. You croak, "How long was I out?" She smiles. 3 days. He hasn't left. You glance at James, still asleep. That stubbornness, a thread in every life. As the nurse leaves, your voice wakes him. He blinks, then jolts upright. "You're awake!" He's already gripping your hand tighter, like you'll vanish if he lets go. "You're okay." I nod. More than okay. He exhales shakily. "Do you remember?" Everything. His shoulders drop. Relief, exhaustion, and something like awe all swirl in his eyes. "Then you know. This is it." One life. No do-overs. He leans forward and presses his forehead to yours. "Then let's not waste a single second." The doctors say it's a miracle your injuries were so mild. A few bruised ribs, a cracked wrist. You leave the hospital in a sling and James's jacket. Back at your apartment, it's strange to see the normalcy again. The chipped mug you love, the pile of books you never finished, but it's all brighter now. Every breath heavier with meaning. "I don't want to go back to sleep," you murmur as you lie on the couch together. "What if we lose it again?" James wraps an arm around you. "We won't. The ring isn't ticking, remember?" You glance at your nightstand where the ring sits beside the key. Still quiet, still warm. You drift off anyway, lulled by the thud of his heartbeat under your cheek. No visions. Just him. The next few weeks are soft and surreal. You fall into rhythms, morning tea, mid-afternoon walks, nights spent curled together with whispered memories. Every little thing feels layered with ghosts. The coffee shop you once ran into him in during your 1920s life, the alley that echoes with an 1800s goodbye, even a crumbling church at the edge of town that both of you swear used to be the Abbey, a long time ago and far away. The modern world is oblivious to your epic love story. No one notices when you stare a little too long at a raven perched on a power line. No one flinches when James crosses the street with his hand never quite leaving yours. But something begins to creep in. You first notice it when you catch your reflection in a store window. For just a second, the eyes looking back at you aren't yours. They're older, wiser, tired. James notices it too. Little glitches, moments where the sky pulses too blue or the air rings too silent. "I think the final life has boundaries, like it's made of thinner thread," he says one night as you walk through a field of wildflowers. You nod. Maybe it wasn't built to last. There's a custom in this modern world, one you've never encountered in any life before. Memory lanterns. Once a year, people gather to write down memories or hopes on rice paper, tie them to small floating lanterns, and send them down the river. You and James go together. Yours reads, "I remember 17 lives, and I'd do it all again." His simply says, "Semper ad te redeo." Always, I return to you. You watch them drift away under the moonlight, twin flames in the dark. As the lanterns vanish downstream, he turns to you. "Do you think there'll be anything after this?" You consider it. Maybe there's nothing beyond this life. Maybe there is. But for once, you're not afraid of either answer. "Let's find out together," you say. A week later, a letter arrives in the mail. No stamp, no sender, Just the stag and rose crest embossed in gold. Inside, one card. When the time comes, you'll both know. Follow the thread. No signature, but you already know who sent it. The seamstress of lives. You don't know what to do with the card, so you place it in the drawer beside the ring and key. A trinity of quiet fate. That night, James wakes with a start. You're already sitting up, because you felt it too. A ripple in the fabric. The first stitch loosening.
The day begins like any other. Slow, golden, safe. Birds song through the window. The scent of cinnamon from James's terrible attempt at baking. Sunlight warm on your bare feet as you pad into the kitchen. And yet, something under it all hums wrong. Not wrong like danger. Wrong like endings. James doesn't say anything at first. Neither do you. But you both feel it. The loosening. By midday, the signs are obvious. Your phone glitches. Numbers turn into script you recognize from one of your earlier lives when the stars were worshipped and you wore gold in your hair. The street signs flicker between modern names and older ones. Names you whispered under moonlight a dozen lifetimes ago. James drives you out of the city, instinct tugging at both of you. You end up at the lake. It's just a reservoir now. Nothing ancient or sacred. Except it is. Because you remember this place from Life 6, when you and he were temple caretakers in a realm where water was the most sacred thing of all. Where you lit lamps at dawn and bathed in silence before prayer. The air ripples as you step out of the car. Do you see it? You whisper. James nods. Because the trees around the lake aren't quite right anymore. Some are real, maples and pines, ordinary and green. But others have turned translucent, dreamlike, wearing blossoms from lifetimes you've never seen here. Red camellias from the mountain sect life. Glowing white blossoms from the empire of glass. Reality is thinning. You sit at the water's edge, and it hits you all at once. This is the place you'll say goodbye. Maybe not today, maybe not this week, but soon. You feel it in your marrow. James wraps an arm around you. You thinking what I'm thinking? He asks softly. That we only get one more chance to get this right. He smiles, kisses your temple. That, and maybe we should finally write our damn story down before it's lost again. You laugh, a short, sad sound. As if anyone would believe it. He pulls a worn leather notebook from his coat. Doesn't matter. It's not for them. And so you begin. Sitting by the lake, writing your story, not just the names and dates and places, but the feelings, the tiny things no memory spell could ever erase. The way his voice always steadies you, the curve of your hand when it fits into his, the way you both flinch at thunder because of that one life where lightning stole everything. He writes too, about the first time he saw you in a crumbling library filled with fireflies, how your laugh knocked the air from his lungs, how in every life since, he searched for it, even when he didn't remember your name. You write until your hands ache, and when the sun begins to set, painting the sky the same color as your first goodbye, James says it aloud. Let's get married. You blink. Wait, like now? He grins. I have no idea how much time we have left. The sky's glitching, the trees are time ghosts, and I really don't want to go out without ever calling you my wife at least once. You snort, eyes wet.
You're the only man in history who proposes mid-apocalypse without a ring. Oh no? He pulls something from his pocket. It's the ring. The same one. The ticking stopped. The thread unwound. But the gold is still warm. You stare at him. You kept it? He shrugs. Of course. It's the one thing that's been through everything with us. You and that ring are in a very unhealthy codependent relationship. He smirks. Jealous? Maybe. You slip it on your finger again. It fits perfectly. Like it always has. You drive to the nearest town, find a sleepy clerk at a courthouse who barely looks up from her romance novel. When she asks for witnesses, a pair of college kids at the vending machine agree after you promise them a pizza. The ceremony takes less than 10 minutes, but your vows are silent, spoken with your eyes. Find me. Choose me. Again and again and again. Afterwards, you and James sit on the hood of your car, still in your thrift store clothes, still barefoot, eating fries under a flickering parking lot light. He bumps your shoulder. Romantic enough for you? You grin. Perfect! I mean, in at least 4 lives, you couldn't afford flowers. And in 2, I died before the wedding. Details. The stars above begin to move. Not in arcs, in spirals. You both watch. I think it's starting, he says. You nod. You scared? You pause, then shake your head. No, not as long as I'm with you. He leans in, brushing your lips with his. Then let's see how the final thread unwinds. That night you dream of the garden again. The seamstress is there, but she doesn't speak. She only nods once, then vanishes into the trees. And when you wake, your body is light as breath. But the world is even lighter. The door is beginning to open again. And this time, it doesn't lead back. It leads forward. You don't tell anyone, but you feel it the moment your final thread begins to fray. It's not pain, not even fear. It's like the air itself sighs a little when you walk through it. Like reality has started to remember that you were never supposed to stay this long. You and James leave the city. You don't pack much, just your shared notebook, the ring, the card, and the key. The car winds through old hills and sleepy towns until you reach a quiet place by the sea. An inn built into the cliffside where the windows are always open and the waves never stop humming lullabies. James says, "Let's live slow, just for a while." So you do. You paint seashells. He learns to make bread. You write in the notebook about memories you forgot you still had. The time he gave you a peach blossom crown in a realm where trees whispered secrets. The way your name always found its way back to him, even when it was mangled, lost, or stolen. One morning, the sea is too still. You walk barefoot to the beach and find something waiting in the sand. A silver coin. Not from this world. It bears the seal of the empire where you once ruled side by side, back in your 4th life, the one where you drank poison so he wouldn't die alone. You clutch it, eyes stinging. James finds you like that, still holding it as the tide creeps in. You think it's a message? He asks gently. You nod. A goodbye or a reminder? A reminder of what? That we've died beautifully before. We can do it again. That night, you hold hands in bed, backs to the open window, the ocean in your ears, and the world bends. Just for a second. It bends. You wake before dawn to a single sound. Click. The key on the nightstand turns itself. You sit up. James is already awake. You both stare as the key glows faintly, then stills. You take it. This time, you know what to do. There's an old path down the cliffs, one you've never seen until now. You don't speak as you walk it, only the sound of waves and gulls in your joined footsteps. The world begins to blur around the edges. Trees shift as you pass them, leaves flickering through seasons in a blink. When you reach the end of the path, there's a gate. Not wood, not stone, a gate of light. Intricate carvings run across it, shifting even as you look. Symbols you recognize from every life you've ever lived. The stag and rose, the crescent moon, a sun split in two. Your initials woven to every motif like thread through a tapestry. There's no lock, only the keyhole. You glance at James. He doesn't hesitate. He pulls the ring from his pocket and presses it into your palm. Just in case, he says softly. You slide the key into the gate. It clicks. The air shivers. For a second, the whole world flickers, as if struggling to decide which version of itself to become. Then the gate swings open. What lies beyond isn't a new world. Not exactly. It's every world. All at once. You step forward, and you fall, not down, but through. Through lifetimes, through choices. The peach orchard where you died alone. The candlelit abbey where he promised to return. The ruined garden where you first kissed under a blood moon. You see them all. And this time, you don't just remember. You feel. Every goodbye, every first meeting, every death, every rebirth. James tumbles through beside you, his hand never leaving yours. And finally, you land. Not on solid ground, but in stillness, a space of starlight. In front of you, her, the seamstress. She's not what you remembered. You thought she'd be older, wiser, but she's small, bright-eyed, wearing a dress stitched from the sky itself. She smiles, tilting her head. You found the end. You swallow. Is this death? She chuckles. Hardly. You've done that 17 times already. This is the thread's rest. You frown. Then what happens now? Her eyes soften. That's up to you. James speaks, voice hoarse. Can we stay? She nods once. If you choose it, but it's not like the lives before. This one doesn't rewind. It doesn't hide. You understand. No more do-overs, no forgetting, no reincarnating into newer, shinier selves. Just truth. Real, unshakable, tender truth. You glance at James. His eyes say always. You whisper, yes. The seamstress smiles, then reaches into her dress and pulls out 2 new spools of thread. One gold, one silver. She places them in your hands. Write your life together from this point on, with no fear of time, or loss, or forgetting. You've earned it. The threads hum warm against your skin. She fades, just like that. And in her place, a door. Not glowing, not dramatic, just a quiet wooden door, half open, wind whispering through. James squeezes your hand. You ready? You nod. And together, you step through. The door doesn't close behind you. It dissolves, like mist in morning sun. You don't fall this time. You arrive. The world is quiet, golden. A cottage sits in a clearing, roof half covered in ivy, chimney puffing soft curls of smoke, A garden wraps around it. Lavender, thyme, flowering peach trees you didn't plant, but somehow remember planting. A pair of boots sit by the door. Yours. James walks forward, hands in his pockets. He says, "I think this is it." You breathe deep. Everything smells like safety. Even the sky feels familiar. Soft, watercolor shades instead of harsh sun, a breeze full of bee song, the low murmur of a river nearby. No past lives scream here. No pain echoing from buried timelines. You don't forget, but you're not haunted either. Memory exists here like a shelf of well-read books. You can take one down whenever you want, but you don't have to. The front door creaks open under your hand. Inside, a table with 2 mugs already steaming. An open journal on the counter, waiting. A coat draped over the chair. The silence is filled, not empty, expectant. You turn in a slow circle. There are no walls lined with clocks, no cryptic relics, no secret staircases. Just this. A life. Your life. And you feel it. How long you've been building this, piece by piece, life by life, heartbreak by heartbreak. Every tiny choice mattered. The garden you planted in life 3 taught you patience. The sword you lifted in life 7 taught you bravery. The lullabies you sang to a daughter you only had in life 10 taught you tenderness. You're not a blank slate anymore. You're an archive of everything you've ever loved. James runs a hand along the bookshelves. He says, "We could write again. Stories we make up. Just for us." You smile. "No tragedy this time?" He winks. "Depends on how much you annoy me." You spend the first day nesting. No one tells you to. There's no supernatural voice narrating the next quest, just instinct. You hang up your coat, sort the kitchen, stack the firewood. When the first rain falls, soft and rhythmic, you and James light candles and talk about nothing for hours. It's magic how freeing that is. In so many lives, you only had time for everything: grand gestures, passionate chaos, universe-breaking love. But now, the world is made of mundane beauty. He teaches you how to bake something that doesn't turn into a sad, deflated sponge. You show him how to braid your hair in the way he always loved from your 7th life, the one where you lived in wind-carved cliffs and never once touched the ground barefoot. You kiss under soft lamps mid-sentence because nothing is chasing you. And for the first time, you begin to wonder, was peace the point all along? It's a cultural belief here, one you find written on a small card pinned to the pantry door in perfect cursive. In the Threads ward, it is said that those who love deeply enough become stars when they're ready, but only when they've rested enough first. You snort when you read it. James grins. "You think we're close to starhood?" You raise a brow. "I think we have a few centuries to go." That night, you dream again, but not of past lives. You dream of what could be. You and James raising chickens, adopting a scruffy dog named Cedric, writing books under pen names that become obscure cult classics, throwing dinner parties for neighbors who always bring too much wine. No gates, no curses, no glowing rings, just time. The kind that doesn't count down. A week passes, maybe a year. Time is soft here, like bread just pulled from the oven. It yields to your pace. But the threads never quite vanish. Sometimes, on still evenings, you hear them humming. Sometimes you swear the trees whisper things only your sixth self would know. Sometimes you feel the ache of one version of you who never got this far. So, you do something about it. You plant a tree. A huge, glorious peach tree in the middle of the garden. For her. For the version of you who died under one, alone, betrayed, and still hoping. You press your palm to its bark every morning. You whisper, "Got here." James sees it once and just kisses your forehead without a word. On the first frost of the season, the tree blossoms. Out of season, delicate pink blooms. You both stare at it. He asks, "Is that normal?" You shrug. "I think the Threads Ward doesn't care about seasons." He grins. "Good. Neither do I." There's a superstition in the Threads Ward, one written in the margin of a book you find under the bed. If your garden ever blooms out of season, someone's watching you from the seam between stars. It means they remember. You close the book gently. Then, without meaning to, you whisper toward the sky, "I remember too."
One morning, James doesn't wake beside you. There's no panic, just a sense of tilt, like the world's been nudged an inch to the left. You find him outside. He's standing barefoot in the dew, gazing at the sea of mist spilling through the orchard. The sun hasn't risen yet, but the sky is lavender, painted in slow gold. He turns when you approach. "I heard a song," he says, voice distant. "In a dream. It was you." You take his hand. "Sing it." He shakes his head. "It wasn't made of sound. It was thread, like a spool unraveling across the sky." You don't ask what it means. Here, meaning isn't an equation. It's an atmosphere. The peach tree drops a blossom in your hair. The river murmurs something you don't translate, and a thought stirs in your chest. This life is ready to echo, not end, not break, but ripple. You feel it again the next evening when you find a visitor at your gate. She's young, maybe 12, wearing an oversized coat and clutching a map that's falling apart in her hands. You open the gate slowly. "Lost?" She looks up at you with a strange relief in her eyes. "No, I followed the red string." You glance down. Wrapped around her wrist, a glimmering thread, faintly glowing. It disappears somewhere inside your cottage. James steps beside you. "She's like us." The girl nods. "I've seen you in dreams, both of you." Inside, you make tea. She doesn't ask your names. She just says, "I think I'm supposed to remember something." And as the candlelight flickers, you tell her a story, not just of who you are, but who you've been. She listens without blinking. Halfway through, she pulls something from her pocket. A broken ring. One you buried in a past life at the feet of a lover who didn't return. You hold it gently, then smile. "Welcome home," you whisper. That night, she sleeps on the couch. James tucks a quilt over her, the same quilt you stitched with patches from every place you've ever lived. She sighs in her sleep, a peaceful, grounded sound. You realize then that you are becoming the myth now. The couple in the Threads Ward who remember every version of love, the ones who planted the impossible peach tree, the ones whose doors open to those who wander through dreams. James chuckled softly from the kitchen. "Are we running an orphanage for reincarnated romantics now?" You grin softly. "Wouldn't be the worst retirement." The next day, the girl is gone. No note, but her mug is cleaned and put away, and the quilt is neatly folded.
and on the table sits a spool of crimson thread, the same color as the one you tied around James's wrist in Life 4, when he'd lost his voice, and you'd promised to find him in every lifetime after. You hold the thread between your fingers and feel it vibrate. It's not sorrow, not grief. It's continuity. The thread's word lives through you now. People begin to find you. Not often, not loudly. Just a knock now and then. A letter on the windowsill. A carved figurine left in the garden. Each one a soul that crossed lifetimes to arrive at your doorstep and feel, even for a second, that peace was real. They don't stay forever. Sometimes just a night, sometimes a week. But they always leave a gift. A piece of thread. A new memory. A scent from a world you don't remember living, but suddenly ache to taste again. Your cottage fills with echoes. You and James call them your afterlights. Little flickers of everything you've loved. One night, you hang lanterns in the garden, one for each afterlight. Peach blossoms fall into the flames, and none of them burn. The superstition goes, if a flame holds a flower, your thread has tied itself to legend. You glance at James. I think we've become a story. He kisses your forehead. Then let's make it the kind people whisper about for centuries. Later, lying in bed, your eyes tracing the cracks in the ceiling, you wonder aloud. Do you think we'll ever live again? He turns toward you. Do you want to? You think of the girl, the broken ring, the open gate. I don't know, you whisper. I think this time I'm not waiting for the next life. I'm living this one fully. He tucks a peach blossom behind your ear. Then that's the answer. It happens slowly and all at once. The world begins to sing. Not with voices, but with familiarity. The brook laughs like an old friend. The wind ruffles your coat the way your mother once did in your second life. Even the way the porch creaks as you step onto it feels deliberate, as though the thread's word itself is remembering with you. James paints now. Not landscapes, not portraits. He paints moments. The way your hand hovers over his before touching. The curve of your smile when you forget you're smiling. The way your reflection looks in the tea kettle before dawn. He paints your first death, too. The one under the peach tree. But this time, he adds a twist. You're not alone in it. He's there, hand on yours, mouth whispering something you never got to hear. You hang it above the fireplace. Visitors still come, though less often now. The girl returns once, older, confident, eyes bright with memory. She leaves a bundle of letters written to her future selves. You add them to the shelf labeled, Before We Knew. There's a superstition here now that wasn't always here. One that says, if you leave a letter under the third stone on the second stair of the thread's word cottage, the wind will carry it to the self you're still becoming. Sometimes you check. The stone is always warm, and the letters keep appearing. On the eve of your 17th thread's word year, at least as far as you're counting, James gives you a gift. It's small, wrapped in a cloth embroidered with stars. Inside is a spool of thread, rose gold, a color you've never seen before, not even in the seamstress's spools. He says, it's not from the past, it's what comes next. You hold it between your palms. It hums, a low, living sound, like a cat's purr made of memory. You don't say anything. You just kiss him. That night, you lie tangled together in the quilt stitched with lives. Neither of you speak for long. There's nothing left to promise, nothing left to chase. And that's the twist you never saw coming. You're not waiting anymore. You're simply here, at peace, real, unrushed, and entirely yours. Outside, the peach blossoms fall again, early, out of season, beautiful. You let them. The threadsword sky glows with its usual hush, but tonight it seems to cradle you. And you think, maybe this is what people meant when they spoke of heaven. Not perfection, not eternity, just completion. And still, the gate stays open, not as an invitation, but as a witness. It watches as you grow old, hand in hand, as your hair grays and your voices roughen, as your footsteps slow and your stories deepen. And when the final moment comes, when your breath trembles and your eyes close beside his, it doesn't feel like leaving. It feels like rising. Not to a new life, but to a memory so whole it becomes something more. The threadsword keeps the cottage, the visitors, the tree, the peach blossoms. But your threads, his and yours, float upward, spinning gently into stars. The superstition was right. You only become a star once you've rested enough. And you have. You both have. The light you leave behind hums in every heartbeat of the world you shaped. People don't speak your names, but they follow your legend. They find the path, they plant the trees. They tie threads around wrists and wait for dreams. They write letters under the third stone. And somewhere, in the softened folds of reality, you smile, still holding his hand, still whispering stories, still weaving peace. The threadsword sleeps now, just as you do. The garden hushes under soft moonlight, peach blossoms drifting across the stones like forgotten kisses. The river slows, gentler than ever. Somewhere, a lantern still flickers on the porch, casting a golden arc into the dark, just in case another soul finds their way home. There is no more searching, no more waiting for the next life to get it right. You've arrived, at last. And not just at the end of a journey, but at its center, where all your lives met and bloomed and became something that couldn't fade, even across the threads of time. James rests beside you still. The quilt is warm. The silence is full. Even the stars look softer tonight, closer, as if they're leaning down to listen to you breathe. You are not alone. You never were. Not really. And as the threadsword carries your love into legend, into lullaby, it hums the story back to you. A song stitched through space and sleep, sweet as the first morning dew on an old cottage roof. Close your eyes now. Let the memory fade. Let the threads settle. You've done enough. You are enough. And the world remembers. Always.